The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. Welcome to today's Lunch and Learn webinar. It's Victoria Beal with the Ohio LTAP Center. I am so pleased to have with me one of the best presenters I have ever had the privilege to be in a session with. I always strive to go to Scott's sessions whenever he's presenting or whenever I have the ability to. He does a phenomenal job of presenting really tough information in a very informative and humorous way. If any of you are fans of the show MASH, and I'm kind of dating myself here, but Scott has the same brilliance as the writers of MASH did in how he uses humor, and sometimes in a very dry humor way, to present information that, it's really important that we all learn in order to be able to survive in our careers, let alone thrive. So with that, I do want to mention that I am going to unmute everybody from my end, and I would ask that you please keep your phone line muted or your computer audio muted unless you want to speak, but you will have the ability to unmute yourself to speak during the presentation if you want to ask questions of Scott. The other thing is that we have a question box, so if you do not want to unmute, you can put your question in the question box and I'll send that over to Scott as well. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get things rolling. Scott, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have a lot of fun today talking about the hardest thing you will ever do. And I will tell you, medical school, getting your PhD, whatever, making it to be an Army Ranger, piece of cake compared to controlling your ego and emotion. Okay, so we're going to have a lot of interaction today, as much as you want. So you can put questions in the box. You're going to see me look back and forth here a little bit. Actually, I'm going to move you over here a little bit. I'm going to look over here. If you have questions, you can send those, and Victoria's going to give me a heads up. But honestly, you can open your mic, question what we're talking about, give examples or something like this, because the whole idea is that everybody can grow. That's what we're really shooting for here today. All right, so let's just get off to the races here. There we go. Why are we here? All right, so we're talking safety and we're talking self-preservation today. Does anybody see a problem here? Can they see an issue that you might want to warn this guy about? Okay, and I got like 100 of these different slides. People being people, which, there are 5 or 10% of the population out there that just do dumb things. And this is a dumb thing. All right, now, first of all, we can fix that. We can fix that. All right, so I'm sure as soon as the first little nick hits this guy, he's probably going to drop that chainsaw and think something like, that seemed like a good idea at the time. All right, now let me tell you, this looks horrendous, but I will tell you right now, I am not here to hurt you in any way. I am here to help you. Honestly, I will tell you right now, some of the things that people do today cannot be fixed. And in our society, they will hang you. Now, that sounds like an exaggeration, but hang on. Okay, the hardest thing you'll ever do is control your ego and emotions. And we're going to look at this in detail. That sounds pretty simple. And right now, we're relatively calm, not under a high degree of stress. But how about when you're driving home tonight and someone cuts you off on the highway? Okay. And let's just say you react automatically and give them a simple hand gesture. Take your favorite one that, just sort of, pops to mind. All right. What are the chances they're going to shoot you? Now, I'll tell you, are we living in a different world? I mean, think of what our world has become in one period of time. In 2021, we had 40 some mass shootings in a 30-day period. And that's where 4 or more people get shot. I'll tell you, this is a crazy world. 38,000 physical assaults that occur in American workplaces every week. Don't want it here. And I want you to become a master of self-control so that you can build relationships, right? That's the key. Now, let me give you a perfect example of someone's life who is over. Her life is destroyed. And then we can talk about whether or not that's fair. All right, so here's Amy Cooper. All right, she is now been branded the Central Park Karen. Okay, so you kind of see there, she's got this dog that she got from the Humane Society, and this dog does not look like he's enjoying himself. She went to a part of Central Park called the Rambles. Now, the Rambles is a place where bird watchers go. And I can tell you right now, bird watchers do not get along with dogs. I will tell you. And I've had dogs my whole life. I've had cats my whole life. Cats don't really disturb anybody outside. And you don't see many people taking a cat for a walk. All right, some people do, but I'll tell you, a dog runs through the place, destroys the plantings. That's what dogs do. Okay, I have a 11-month-old German Shepherd, and I am very not proud to say he is reaching today 99 pounds of uncontrollable dog. Okay, he's got this little itty bitty brain, great big body. All right, his job is to dig and tear things up. All my grass, he's destroyed. That's what they do. Okay, now she doesn't have this dog on a leash. Now, freeze right now. Would you think, New York City, that you would have to have your dog on a leash? Anybody have a comment for me? What do you think? Should you just let your dog run around loose in New York City? Any thoughts about that? Anybody giving a thought? I got, what do you got here? You got 16.
Everybody's unmuted, so they can unmute.
They're all unmuted. Yeah. Yeah. Anybody out there thinking you should have your dog on a leash? Just common sense. What do you think?
Probably should.
Probably should. Absolutely. Who was that? Well, thanks anyway. Okay. No, that's great. That's great. Okay, I'm getting some feedback, but no, you probably should. And it's the law. Okay, it's the law. So let's dog turn around. So Christian Cooper, the guy on the right, no relation whatsoever. Okay, now just picture his body language, the way he's dressed, his binoculars, helmet, okay, nice glasses he's got. Does he look like a killer? This guy, I'm looking at him, he's like, just looks like normal burger out there. And he asks her to put the dog on a leash, which is fine. He's a bird watcher. And she starts to freak out. She starts to hyperventilate. Okay, right away. When she starts to hyperventilate, what's that mean? It means she is about to lose it. And so he starts recording her. And so she calls the police. And this is exactly what she called the police and told them. There's an African-American man, I'm in Central Park, and he's recording me and threatening myself and my dog. Okay, freeze right there. When she started to hyperventilate, when she started to lose it, does anybody have some advice for her that she should do at that point to save her own skin? Anybody have some advice? What should she have done when she starts to freak? Any thoughts? I'm sorry, what was that?
He should leave. He should leave.
Oh, take care.
Yeah, you're right. Look at all the space behind her. She had plenty of room, didn't she?
Yes.
Yeah, lots of room. Okay. This destroyed her life. Okay. The very next day, Franklin Templeton, she was a full vice president at Franklin Templeton, making a base salary of $170,000 a year, fired her. No ifs, ands, buts about it. She's done. She starts getting death threats. Okay. She's ostracized. She is an employment leper. No one will touch her. She got charged with filing a false police report. So now she's got a record. And the Humane Society won't let her take any dogs anymore. Okay, freeze right there. How many people here, just think to yourself, how many people here have ever done something stupid? Are you doing something stupid?
Yes.
There you go. Absolutely. Isn't that how we learn? Don't we learn more? Go ahead. I'm sorry. I hear you out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, think about this. What will this do to your life? We're going to talk about a lot of risks out there, but let me ask you, is the internet fair? Is it fair? That's almost a rhetorical question, isn't it? Fair is where you show pigs. Fair doesn't have anything to do with it. Fair is something that you do not get. And I'll tell you right now, it is amazing. And we've all made mistakes. And yes, she made a whopper of a mistake. She apologized to Christian Cooper. She apologized up and down. I'll tell you right now, and this is the end of her. And I'll tell you, I'm a big believer in redeeming people, because I'll tell you, once you've really screwed something up, you probably have somebody that will never do that again. Now, think about it. Yeah, somebody can apologize and they don't really mean it. Okay. Well, quite frankly, they'll slip again. But I'll tell you right now, we live in a society where emotions and ego take over. And I'll tell you right now, this is how you and I are wired. And I don't care what your age is, your race is, your religion, your gender. I don't care any of that. We're all humans. And that means we're all wired the same way. Now, let me ask you. You got this digital video of her out there, or some digital picture of you, okay? On or off the job. Once something is out on the internet, how do you get rid of a digital message? How do you get rid of it? Any ideas?
You probably.
I'm sorry, what was that?
You don't.
You don't?
It's out there.
It's out there. You never get it back. And so I'll tell you, slow down and think. And I'll tell you, I am absolutely convinced if I'd have had Amy Cooper in class, or I've been coaching Amy Cooper, this would not have happened to her, because she would have realized that deep down, she's a cave woman. And I'll tell you all, listen, my friends, the sooner we all realize we are cavemen and women, the sooner you'll be able to control it. Okay, so let me tell you, there is no such thing as a personality conflict. I'm going to show you a little diagram here. And I always love it when somebody says, well, these are soft skills. Oh, no, they're not. These skills, if you can't define them, how could you teach them? And if you can't define them, how could you replicate them across an entire organization? And if you can't define them, how could you spot them when somebody does it or not? Now, I'll tell you right now, when something goes wrong in your life, in a conflict in particular, like this is a conflict with Amy Cooper and Christian Cooper, okay, it was one of these things. You look at this diagnostic diamond, and this is a very simplistic view of it. First base is emotional intelligence. That is the hardest thing. That's what we're going to focus on here, but that is tough. And if anybody's a baseball fan, you realize that our greatest heroes fail 70% of the time to get to first base. That's how hard this is. Okay, so we are going to focus on emotional intelligence today. What is it? There's other factors involved in emotional intelligence, like do you run away from an argument or do you attack somebody? Tolerance, whether or not you are bullying somebody else, that's tolerance. And do people intervene when there's a problem? But we're going to focus on the overall topic of emotional intelligence. And again, that is, can you control your emotions and ego? And I'll tell you, I hope I've gotten your attention. I hope I got all of the antennas up out there, because in today's world, self-control is so important. Does anybody here know what a streaker is? Anybody out there familiar with streaking?
Yes.
Okay, what is it? Who is this? Yeah, what is streaking? Or lose you? Okay, well, let me give you the definition, okay? And I'm not saying that you're a former streaker or anything like that. That's not what I'm implying. Streaking was big when I was in high school and college, back in the 70s and 80s, and take off all their clothes, get naked, and outside. Okay, you just don't see that much anymore. Okay, it's not an Olympic sport or anything like that, but you just don't see streaking that much anymore. Does anybody have an idea as to why we don't have streaking anymore? What are people going to do if you go streaking around somewhere? And if you can see me, you can see my iPhone. You've all got a camera, a recording device on you right now. You've all got them. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on, because you got to build relationships. Now, this emotional intelligence stuff, let me clue you in. This is the #1 factor that will determine how successful you are and how happy you are. It's your EQ, your emotional quotient, not your IQ. And let me just show you who we are. Let me introduce you all to the human. And this is not a compliment. Okay, now let me ask you a very simple question. Have we evolved? Or by the diagram here, doesn't it kind of look like devolving? Okay, so let me tell you, we are cavemen. Now, I've worked on this to make sure that I don't offend anybody. The human, if you go back 5,000 or 5,500 years ago, right here in North America, Fred Flintstone or native tribes lived here. Okay, that's who lived here. Okay, so think about it. When Fred Flintstone left the hut every day, what were his biggest concerns? Anybody have an idea for me? He didn't want to get eaten, and he got to get something to eat, right? So let me tell you, if we go back 5,000 years, people who believe in evolution understand that man stopped evolving 10 to 50,000 years ago. Okay, so humans lived here 5,000 years ago. Our DNA strand has not changed in 5,000 years. Now we're bigger and faster and stronger now today, but that's because of living conditions and nutrition. Okay, and if you're a creationist, you think the world is 5,600 years old. So 5,000 years ago, humans lived here. Everybody get me? We have not evolved in 5,000 years. Have our surroundings changed? And forget the last 5,000 years. Have our surroundings changed in the last 5 to 10 years? I'll tell you, it's a whole new world, right? Whole new world. Okay, so think about it. If you are attacked 5,000 years ago by a bear or by a lion or whatever, what would you do? I mean, you're Fred Flintstone. Could you claw it? I mean, do you have any claws? Look at your claws. Look at your fingernails. Could you bite it? Could you outrun it? Could you outrun a bear? A bear can run 35 miles an hour. You're doing great if you can hit 10 or 12. Okay? And keep that up for a while. Look, does anybody know the one thing that the human animal has that is different than every other animal? And don't say thumbs, because monkeys have thumbs. What do we got?
Their brain.
There you go. Our brain. And I'll tell you right now, I don't care what your education level is. I don't care your IQ. We're all cavemen and women. And that means fight or flight. All right. And we have discovered in the last few years, or the last 20 years, that we have an emotional brain and a logical brain. They do not get along. They are constantly wrestling, just like these two. All right. And let me show you. This is you. This is me. This is every human on the planet. Okay, so step one. You and I see a stimulus. Okay, a bear. Someone cuts you off in traffic. Something gets you. Somebody from accounting comes walking into your workspace, shaking your expense report at you. Okay, that is going to trigger your fight or flight response. Now, everybody listen here. You have one fight or flight response. One. You do not have a fight or flight response for when someone throws a rock at you, punches you in the face, or calls you names. It's one. It's called endangerment. Your body, we get this, folks. Your body does not recognize the difference between a punch in the face and a punch in the self-esteem. Okay, so right away in the center of your brain, that's going to register with your emotional system and your fight or flight system, and it's going to shoot a message down that blue vagus nerve right there. That's what that is. It's called the vagus nerve. It has one primary responsibility: keep you alive. And it's going to shoot that message to your kidneys. And see those two little, that's step number 2. You see those two little dunce caps sitting on top of your kidneys? Those are your adrenal glands. Okay, when your heart rate hits 145 beats per minute, you're going to lose it. Okay, you're going to start to get short of breath. And this is automatic for all of us. When our heart rate goes up and hits 145 beats per minute, we get short of breath, okay? And why do we get short of breath? Because the blood is being rerouted in your body automatically to your arms and legs and lungs, because it's getting you ready for fight or flight. And if you keep getting more and more and more upset, if your heart rate hits 175 beats per minute, you go, according to the University of North Carolina, temporarily autistic. Okay, what's that mean? Everything slows down. Your body takes over control. You actually lose a lot of control for your system. Okay, freeze right there. As you start to get short of breath, and you're Amy Cooper, you kind of see why. Okay, as soon as you get short of breath, what do? Get out of there. Run. Because it's going to be bad for you. You are going to lose all control over your emotional system. And let me show you what's happening in your brain. Okay. Now, let me ask you, first and foremost, do you need blood flow to your brain? Is that important?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No blood flow, brain doesn't work. Now, this is actually my brain. These are 2 scans that I've had of my brain. I've had a few scans. The one on the left is a normal, healthy brain, relaxed. That's me relaxed, okay? So, see from here up, those are my frontal lobes. And this is me relaxed. I've got nice blood flow to my frontal lobes, okay? So I'm gonna make better decisions. That's us sitting here right now. That's us sitting here right now, calm. Nobody's probably gonna kick the cat or throw a stapler at somebody. We're calm. Okay. Now, you don't need your frontal lobes to live. Do you hear me? You do not need them to live, and your body knows that. You need them to think. But if you are getting attacked by a saber-toothed tiger, or if it is Christian Cooper recording you, I will tell you, you go into fight or flight, your body takes the blood from your frontal lobes first. Okay, see the scan on the right? That is me ticked off. That's me upset. Okay, well, how do they do that? Well, at the Amen clinics, which is where I had these done, they give you a game to play. And it's a lot like those little games with the controls you're controlling, and you're trying to catch the little gold coins, and the gold coins keep moving, and you can't get them, and you start getting really upset and angry. And then they say, okay, well, he's really ticked off now. Put him in the machine. Okay, so they put me in the machine. Look at the holes. Look at the holes. Those are not really holes. What that shows is the blood has left my frontal lobes. And because I'm upset, I'm breathing heavier. The blood has gone to my arms and legs and lungs. Now, here's the $100,000 question. What kind of decisions are you going to make when you go into fight or flight and you got two holes in your frontal lobes. There's nothing standing between your emotions and your mouth and your body. Great question here. Want a real answer. Has anybody here ever seen somebody just lose it and then they say, I don't know what came over me? Have you ever hear that one?
Probably said it myself.
Yeah, we all do. We all do. You know why? Because you're human. The sooner you admit that you're a cave person, the sooner you will be able to control it. Because here's how we're wired. And this is all within the last 30 years we've discovered. We've always known where your frontal lobes are. That's what you use to think. And we pride ourselves on our frontal lobes. Oh, our IQ. Oh, yeah, we hang diplomas on the walls, all kinds of things to show that we know what we're doing. Okay. But you see those two little red balls? Those are your amygdalas. That's your fight or flight system. Okay? They sit above your ears and behind your eyeballs. We just discovered those in 1992. A guy by the name of Dr. Joseph Ledoux. All right, he discovered these and took about 5-10 years to figure out exactly what they did. All of our fight or flight response comes from those amygdalas. And they are lightning quick to keep you alive. Remember, you got a 5,000-year-old brain. It doesn't know that Christian Cooper is videotaping you. It thinks Christian Cooper might eat you. Okay, so your frontal lobes, you know, they're all up here, way away from the center of your brain. Look where your amygdalas are located. They are right next to your emotional system, your thalamus, and they're right next to your brainstem. So here's what happens. As you hear me talking right now, as you hear me talking right now, the sensation is going into the center of your brain and boom, right to your amygdalas. That happens, folks. You're hearing me? That happens in 17 thousandths of a second. That's lightning. That's faster than you can blink. Your body and brain is designed to react and think later. And think why that is. If your body wasn't designed to do that, if your body was sit there, your brain was designed to reason things out and then act, those people are all dead. It goes back to the old joke. I don't have to outrun the lion. I just have to outrun you. So all the humans who were not maybe wired this way, they're gone. We're what's left. So boom, your reaction and emotional system or your fight or flight kicks in so fast. Now, here's another example of somebody not doing what they're supposed to do. Does anybody see a problem here? The guy in the yellow shirt, what's his job? Can you tell me what his job is?
Assume to keep the feast.
Yeah, that's what we're assuming, right? Keep the peace. And I'm quite sure that Mr. Spiky Head said something to him. And now the peace team guy's going over the fence to try to get him. Well, why'd that happen? Because look how long it took to get that same sensation to his frontal lobes. It takes 2 or 3 times as long. I'll tell you, give you an exercise. Okay, we're all going to say this together. Going to give you a word to say, and this, even though you're all spread out, I'm going to put you on your honor code, and you're all going to say this word 10 times together. The word is white. We're all going to say the word together 10 times. Then I'm going to ask you a question, time you, see how long it takes you to answer. Okay? All right, so all together, we're all going to say the word white. Ready? White, 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 white. What did cows drink?
Milk.
Yeah. Anybody? How many people? Yeah. Anybody out there say milk? Yeah. Cows drink water, right? They drink water. Well, why does it work? Well, you see those little amygdalas down there? Those amygdalas have a memory system all their own. Welcome to part of your subconscious. Subconscious is real. Oh yeah, we could spend the whole rest of the hour just talking about implicit bias. Okay, and how powerful your subconscious is. Okay, but I'll tell you right now, if you do not slow down and think today, you're dead through another means, probably by digital recording. Okay, let's see. That's the first thing you want to always remember when it comes to your emotional intelligence. The difference between success and failure is often 5 seconds. 5 seconds to stop and think. Let your frontal lobes catch up. That makes a big difference. Okay? Oh, I can't believe that. Okay, so going to give you another word to say. The word is joke. So we're all going to say the word joke together 10 times. Then I'm going to ask you a question, but nobody's going to say anything for 5 seconds. That's going to let the thoughts to your frontal lobe catch up. Okay? So, everybody all together, the word is joke. So all together, joke, 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 joke. What do you call the white part of the egg? Don't say anything. Let it cook. Okay, what do you call the white part of the egg? The egg white, right? Shell. Anybody here wanted to say yolk? Like every other human on the planet? That would be wrong. I'll tell you, this is one of the best little tools that I want you to carry in your pocket for the rest of your life. Make sense? Questions, comments? Just take a little pause there, make sure everybody's got this, because this is an absolutely critical skill. If Amy Cooper had taken 5 seconds to stop and think and realized what was happening in her body, she would have left. Because it's going to be bad for her. Make sense? Any questions? Everybody got her? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, do we have a question? Okay. Yes, we are all wired to be emotional children. So slow down and think. Nothing insulting. That's where we all are. Now, let's just look a little bit why it's so critical to slow down and think. Let me ask you, and look at the two little babies here. Do babies laugh? Obviously they do. Okay? And they cry. So think about that. Babies are born with their emotional system and fight or flight system in place, ready to go. In place, ready to go. Okay. And think about it. I just told you that your amygdalas and emotional system have a memory system all their own. Okay, so think about it. The amygdalas, you're born with those. So you have subconscious memories from before birth. Let me ask you, anybody here, have you ever slept in the fetal position? Yeah, we all have, right? Okay, where'd you get that idea? Kind of creepy if you think about it, right? I'll tell you, yes, you have memories, subconscious memories from inside the womb. Okay, is that somebody out there? Oh, okay. Now, yeah, somebody's mic's open. Do you have a comment or a question? Okay. See what's right behind the amygdalas? That is your hippocampus. That is your short-term memory transmitter. You don't get that until you're about the age of 3.5 years old. So think about this, folks. You don't get your hippocampus till you're 3.5 years old. So where does all the stuff that you hear, see, taste, and smell, where does it go? It goes into your subconscious, where it will control what you do on a daily basis for the rest of your life. Okay, so you kind of see slowing down. You ever hear somebody that when they get upset, like Amy Cooper, she went into fight or flight, she gets upset, and you know what's happening in her body. The frontal lobes are draining of blood. There's nothing between her emotions, including her subconscious, and her mouth. And what comes out? Trying to frame a black man as being a criminal when he didn't do anything. That was in her subconscious. And we all have things in our subconscious that we heard when we were very, very young. Actually, I'll tell you, if you are a very thinking person and you slow down and you think, only 90% of what you do all day is subconscious. Okay? If you're somebody that runs through life and never says a word, I mean, you just, fly through life, don't even thinking about it, then probably about 99% of what you do all day is subconscious. That's going to be bad for you. So what's the moral of the story? Use that 5-second rule. Because if you do not stop and slow down, all of us, we turn into evil 3-year-old versions of ourselves. That's the human. That is what we do. Don't do that. And you will see people on the evening news. I'll tell you, after this session, this one and the next one, you will never watch the evening news the same again. Because you'll sit there and you'll see, oh my gosh, these are emotional children. These are emotional children. And yes, that's a big problem in today's world. So yes, take that 5 seconds, slow down, get control until you get the blood back into your frontal lobes. And remember I said 80 to 90% of your success is going to be your emotional intelligence. Well, let's talk about your ego for a minute here. Okay, so doctors, surgeons. Okay, I get to deal with a lot of hospitals, a lot of surgeons, and a lot of surgeons. You could be making $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million a year. Now, freeze right there. If you're making $1 million a year, are you doing pretty good? How many people think your ends are meeting? You're probably pretty successful, right? That's pretty good. At least in my book, that's pretty good. Okay. Now think about it. How many people here you can tell your right from your left? Everybody can tell your right from your. I mean, honestly, you didn't have to go to medical school to know your left from your right. So think about this. In this country, we still have 2 wrong site surgeries that occur every month. Are you hearing me? That means the doctor, the surgeon, has cut into the wrong leg, hand, arm, elbow, knee, something. Okay? Now, understand, this makes it even more interesting because, hey, under the rules, everyone in the surgical suite is required to agree that the doctor's cutting into the right limb. Yes, you're cutting into the right knee and everything. So all the nurses, all the x-ray techs, respiratory therapists, everybody has to agree. The anesthesiologist, everybody. Now think about it. You got 3, 4, 8 people, and none of these people spoke up. None of these people could tell the difference between the left and the right leg. Okay, freeze right there. The doctor, you hear me? Twice a month. That's happening in American hospitals. American hospitals. Okay. Why do you think the other people in the surgical suite do not speak up? Any ideas?
The doctor's making the big bucks. He knows what he's doing, right?
Yeah, he's the captain of the ship. He's in charge. Does this fit? I am not going to disagree with the doctor. Is it safe to contradict a doctor? What do you think?
Yes.
What do you think? Yes. Okay. I'm sorry. What was that? That was good.
Kenny.
Okay. What was your comment? That was good.
No, I was just saying that yes, absolutely. That's the whole point of shopping around and getting a second opinion on things.
Absolutely. Oh yeah. I mean, that is a perfect comment because you're responsible for your own health, aren't you? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now. I've seen this so many times. The doctor is an emotional child. I had a doctor once here in Ohio at a hospital where a nurse spoke up like she was supposed to double check something before he made the incision, and he threw the scalpel at her, lodged in the drywall. I'll tell you right now, a lot of doctors think that MD stands for minor deity. And I'll tell you, if you speak up, what is the culture? It isn't safe. It isn't safe. Now this fits in great with safety people, doesn't it? It's got to be safe with fingers and toes. It's got to be safe from COVID. Is it safe to voice your opinion? And the answer in most hospitals is absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I'll tell you, if you ever notice, I'll tell you, if you are ever going to go in to have, or any of your family members going to have any part of your body operated on, like a limb or something like this, I'll tell you, you want to mark wrong arm, don't cut this one, something like this. And if you ever notice, that's why you have so many nurses coming through and checking, is this the right arm? Is that, you kind of get sick of it. Why do they do that? Because doctors get too big for their britches. The emotional child comes out. And I have had doctors who have gone from making $800,000 a year, $1.2 million a year, to losing their license in the state of Ohio and having to go to another state. And see, if they'd have listened to that other person in the surgical suite who is not a doctor, they'd have been fine. I had one doctor who was amazing because a lot of these surgeries are video recorded now. The doctor went in, threw a fit because all of the cameras in the surgical suite were pointing the wrong way. He said, "This is ridiculous. What a bunch of idiots. They're gonna get nothing but my back." And then he operated on the wrong knee. No, the video people weren't wrong. You were wrong. You cut into the wrong knee. And that cost him his license in the state of Ohio, that and among other things. Okay, you guys see what I'm saying? Too many surgeons are emotional children. And I will tell you right now, the malpractice that you see in this country, if you really realized how much was going on, you would be appalled. And I'll tell you right now, just as a little matter of fact, and I've had this happen to me and family members, the number one type of malpractice that is practiced in the United States is giving you the wrong medication. Absolutely, giving you the wrong prescription. You know why? Because they don't check, and you do not correct a doctor. Okay, everybody with me? I'll tell you, you get too big for your britches, bad things are gonna happen. Now, oops, I don't know why I did that. Okay. Do we all see things differently? Let me ask you. Do men and women maybe see things differently sometimes?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is that a good thing?
Yes.
There you go. Yeah. If you're smart enough to use it. And I'll tell you right now, my wife is 10 times more detail oriented than I am. And that's a pretty common trait between men and women, and has something to do with your anterior cingulate gyrus that runs through the center of your brain. I won't go into that too much, but as a general rule, yeah, I love to have female proofreaders. I just finished my second book, and I'll tell you, it's on tolerance, and I had 30 proofreaders. chop it up. And I'll tell you, if you ever want to challenge your emotional intelligence, write something. Because my major goal was to have a good book. Absolutely. And one that was going to be controversial, I knew it. So I'll tell you right now, it is so much better because I listened to what these other people, other perspectives. I got people who were conservative, very liberal, men, women, all over the place. That is a benefit to me. Okay, everybody with me? So yeah, oh, here's a good one. Is it good to have older people and younger people working together?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do older people bring to the workforce? What do they bring?
Knowledge, experience, typically.
Oh, I love that. I've been there, done that. A wealth of information. Okay, and what do young kids like this kid right here? I'm sure he's working these days. What do young people bring?
New creative idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Do they bring technology?
Okay, cool. That's good. Because at the end of the pay period, I'm kind of,
There's somebody on here. Do they bring technology?
I will be in it.
Yeah. I'll tell you. So it's good to have these people together, right? All these different ideas. Now think about this. What if, and what's going to happen when that young whippersnapper goes and tells that older, more experienced person that he or she is wrong? How's that going to go?
Usually not well.
Not well. You kind of see how the logic goes right out the window when, oh, how dare you disagree? Now it starts to make the doctor-surgeon relationship with the staff, the surgical suite, a little more clear, doesn't it? Oh, and what's going to happen when that older, more experienced person tries to tell that older person or that younger person that they're doing it wrong? Fireworks, right? Okay, see, that is all emotional intelligence. And I'll tell you, as we start looking through these, that right there is exactly why NASA blew 2 space shuttles out of the air. Okay, see why I like to talk to people about safety and emotional intelligence and communication. Emotional intelligence. I'll tell you, we've got all these engineers, brilliant engineers at NASA, put together a letter to tell NASA brass that there's a problem with Challenger. We got to replace the O-rings. The smart thing to do would be to listen to these engineers, wouldn't it? They're smart people. They're engineers. That's why we call them engineers. NASA fired them. Fired them. Now freeze right there. You feel you're getting too big for your britches? How dare somebody tell me that something's wrong with the space shuttle? How dare somebody slow up production? Okay, so right there. Let me ask you, after that, was it safe for engineers to speak up and say when there's a problem with Columbia? What do you think? You just saw 17 of your best engineers suffer from corporate capital punishment because they spoke up and they were right. No, I ain't gonna speak up. This is the problem right here, folks. As our IQs go up, as our titles increase, as our degrees increase, our emotional intelligence drops like a rock. And just enjoy the little monkey to the side here and make a prediction as to what's going to happen here. This is why really, really, really smart people do incredibly stupid things. Want another example? The Boeing 737 MAX. All right. Engineers wanted to put these safety features in place. They wanted to train the pilots. The people who were running Boeing, oh, too expensive. They'll figure it out. And over 300 people died. And the engineers who spoke up were either silenced, or terminated. Okay, this is from Harvard. Harvard is telling you of its graduates, your IQ, your title, the number of degrees, most likely will work against you if you can't control it. Okay, so let me ask you, here's a good question. Is a car a good thing? That's a real question. I want to know, is having cars in our society, is that a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah, that's how we get around. That's our freedom. Okay, what if you can't control it? Dead, right? Terrible. Is the internet, we're all connecting here digitally. Is the internet a good thing?
Yes.
Yeah. You always get some pushback on it. Yes, no, yes. If you're smart enough to use it, if you can control yourself. Gambling addiction, pornography addiction, on and on and on is through the roof because of this. And I'll tell you right now, we're going to look at some people who were very successful and they threw their lives away. And let me tell you right now, what we're talking about right now, again, I'm not here to hurt anybody. I am here to send up a flare and let you know I want to help you, and I want you to recognize this is your biggest pitfall. This is our government's biggest pitfall. Why? Because people run governments. This is everybody's biggest pitfall. Can you improve your EQ? Absolutely. There is no doubt about that. Absolutely you can. But the degree to which you improve is directly related to how much pain you can take. Can you take the pain? And I'll tell you right now, I think of this all the time, and I think of the emotional intelligence. My one goal with both of my books was to turn out the best book I could. The best I could. And you know what that means? You are going to bash your head against the wall again and again and again. You're going to get beat up. But you know what? That's a good thing. Because all that matters is that the final result is good. That's all that matters. Okay, everybody with me? I'm going to show you a couple of people who threw their lives away because they would not listen. Okay, this is an emotional intelligence test. So when I said we can measure stuff, I'm not kidding. And usually when somebody is a severe emotional child, or when I'm going to coach somebody, this is what we do. And I got called in by the board of directors at a hospital to test Mark. And Mark is the administrator. He's the CEO at this hospital. Okay, now let me show you how you read this, okay? 100, which is where that red line is. 100 is average, and it's a score just like an IQ score, okay? 100 is average. Anything above 100 is really good. Anything below 100 is not so good. But you also want all of your scores to be within 10 points of each other. Why? Well, because you want them to even each other out. I want you to think of this like sliding down a banister. If a score is too low, you're going to hit that dip. If something is much higher than the others, well, you're going to hit that. Okay, does anybody here have a preference? Would you rather slide down the banister on the left or the right? Any druthers here?
Right.
That's where I'm going. I'm going down the one on the right because the one on the left is a nuclear vasectomy. And I'm not sure if they really could fix that. I don't know. Now, look at his scores here. Okay. He looked at these scores. He goes, oh, these are great. These are great. And I said, really? What's so great? He says, well, look at the emotional self-awareness, assertiveness. I'm independent. Oh, I am, and he is great there. That is superior. These are phenomenal scores. But look at his empathy for other people. And look, there's a 40-point swing. And I want you to notice in these scores that I show you, There is a definite pattern going on here, folks. We Americans typically do not value empathy, seeing somebody else's point of view. We don't value that, okay? And I'll tell you, this guy, his reality testing, what's that mean? He doesn't see reality. He lives in his own little mind. He was brought in to help this hospital grow. Well, then they should have put him in the position of development. They should have never put him in place in charge of people. He is a disaster, okay? Attacking people, embarrassing people. He loves to pit people against each other, okay? He's an attacker, and he's also a passive aggressive, stabbing people in the back. Now, how does that affect the hospital? Now, if you're running a hospital, let me ask you a very serious question. Isn't your ultimate goal to see that the hospital is successful? Isn't that it?
Yes.
Yeah, it should be. But no, it's to satisfy his ego. And here's a guy making $500,000 a year with the potential of a 100% bonus. He has turned over his executive team, I think, about 3 times in a 5 to 7 year period. 3 times. Everybody. He can't keep anybody. And so guess what? That attack, it isn't safe to speak up. It isn't safe. And so that cascades down throughout the organization. So when they have nurses quit, like they're draining of nurses. You have a nurse that you're paying $28 an hour, maybe $30 an hour, maybe $35 an hour. For a temp nurse, you're paying $75 to $85 an hour. They're losing close to $100 million. He would not change. He refused to change. So guess what? We call that fired. And he is an employment leper. No one will touch him. His career's over at the age of 45, 50 years old. He's done. And this is Tom. And I want you to notice a pattern here. This is a more recent test. Tom is a CEO of an organization, or COO, I'm sorry, COO. Very high assertive. You see a pattern here? I have to be assertive. Okay, that's great. I love assertiveness. Independent. That's wonderful. But you see, your interpersonal relationships, how you resolve conflict. Can you control your ego and emotion? Empathy. Can you see somebody else's point of view? And he couldn't do that. So guess what? People wouldn't stay. And let me ask you, these days, is it hard to recruit new people? Is that getting tough?
Yes.
It is getting tougher. Understand, this stuff is not optional, because the baby boomers are all retiring or dying. And guess what? The Gen Yers and Gen Xers or Gen Yers and Gen Zers are replacing them. Let's go to Penny scores here. Penny, now you could read this by now, right? Her assertiveness is 134. But look at her interpersonal relationships. She can see other people's side, other point of view, but she does not build relationships. Okay, and let me tell you, she is about 50, 55 years old, lives alone, has about 3 or 4 cats. Her idea of a hot time on Saturday night or the weekend is to order some pizzas and sit there, read the tax code with her cats. I don't know about you, but that's not what does it for me. You kind of see there's nothing in her life. And she is a beast when it comes to her people. No understanding of personal problems, nothing. Actually, she had, now get this, folks, she had a hip replaced and production went up. The productivity actually went up. Error rate went down. Why? Because they're not working for the knuckle dragger Penny. And she was not an attacker. She was a passive aggressive who smiled and then slit your throat when you weren't looking. Okay, we had a meeting. I showed her scores, and look, there's like a 40-point swing between her assertiveness and her interpersonal relationships. And this also helped to explain why she also had nobody else in her life. Nobody else could stand her. Well, after 3 hours of crying and 2 years of working at it. Look at her scores 2 years later. Isn't that great? Let's look at them side by side. Look at that. And they were purchased by a larger CPA firm, and she is now head of their tax department. I'll tell you, you can improve your EQ, and that's why we're here. Okay, that's a good note to end on, a nice positive note. Penny is a great success story. Questions, comments, deep religious concerns over anything we talked about at all? So we got her?
Sounds like
Okay,
Go
I
ahead.
have a question. Is there a difference between emotional intelligence and emotional stamina?
Not really. Emotional stamina, it's like how long can you go? I mean, how long can you take stress? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah. If you look on here, look about under stress management. Stress management is a big part. Everybody has stress. And it's like, how do you handle it? What do you do? Okay. And I'll tell you right now, I always have this saying that life is a series of disasters, tragedies, with flashes of joy. And we get these flashes of joy and on all these terrible things you see in the news or things like this. We're all going to have those. But look right here, stress tolerance, and impulse control. Can you control your impulses and the stress that comes into your life? Those are big factors. Those, what you just described, are subsets of emotional intelligence, and those are big ones, absolutely, because everybody has stress that comes into your life. And a good way to think of this is, how well do you handle stress? Think of sports. If you're a sports fan, football, baseball, basketball. Okay, I'll never forget this. I used to take pictures. I'm a photography fan. I used to take pictures of my son's football team, and we had this little soccer player who was the kicker. Great kicker, great kid, and I was just talking to him on the side of the field one day, and I said, these games in the playoffs are going to come real close. I mean, what would you think if it came down to a field goal for you? And he goes, oh, that'd be great. I live for that stuff. This kid was as cool as a cucumber, 16, 17, 18 years old. And while my son was there, their high school team here in Ohio won 2 state titles. And the second title, they were 2 points down, and they were like 30 or 40 yards out. And it all came down to him kicking a 3-point field goal. And I was on the sideline of the enemy, the other side, and they were yelling, miss, miss. Oh, he's going to miss. And I'm saying, this kid is going to nail this. I put $10,000 on it. And sure enough, he goes out there, brushes some dirt off him. Real cool. Gets back, kicks it right through. Okay, why did he do that? Because he knew who he was. He knew what he could do. He was ready, and he had meditated. He had done all these things to control himself. And we'll talk a little later about verbal G. And verbal G is how you resolve conflict, which is emotional intelligence plus these EPR skills that I'm going to show you. Okay, together that is a martial art. And anybody who's ever studied martial arts understands 80% of it is mental control. Actually, people who study martial arts, because of the meditation and everything else, advance their EQ much faster than anybody else. So that your question is right on target. And if you look right there, it is a major subset of emotional intelligence. Absolutely. And the whole idea we're doing this is so you can be more effective at work and you can live happier lives. Make sense? That's a great question. Anybody else?
It does. How do we share this with other coworkers to kind of get them to calm down or balance?
Well, honestly, you start. This is just like your safety program, isn't it? Like, let's say you're going to do some lockout tag out. You're going to do some confined space. You're going to do some material hazards training, something like this, or a program. It always starts with training. And understand that means people have to understand what it is. They have to value it. Mark and Tom both failed because they refused to listen to how important empathy and interpersonal relationships was to other people. Penny, on the other hand, recognized she was actually horrified that people hated her. I even told her, I said, you know, when you had your hip replaced, that production and errors went down and production went up. The employees were actually talking about pitching in, get you another hip. Well, that was devastating to her. Now, remember where we started? The degree to which you improve is directly related to how much pain you can take. This is not for sissies. It's tough. But I'll tell you, when people start to understand, and then they start to reflect, and across the next month or so, I want you all to reflect. Have you had instances where you've harmed yourself? Or you've seen other people harm themselves because of the way they reacted? Okay, so yeah, you got to educate people, and then they got to train. Okay, they got to focus on some of the techniques we're going to look at and stuff like this. But overall, can you control your ego and emotion? And I show you those, and you can play this video for them. I got no trouble with that, or maybe we'll do training for them later or something like this. The world's a possibility. But I like to look at this from a very neurological, practical standpoint. And I love questions like you're asking right there, because honestly, I will tell you right now, if we had more people in this world who practiced emotional intelligence, we'd just have a much better world for everybody. Make sense? Great.
Funny because we send our pets to behavior training, but sometimes as humans, we need that training ourselves.
Oh, you have, and I love that, because yes, I am on my 1, 2, 3, 4th dog. Okay, so I've had 4 dogs, and I'll tell you right now, when you take your pet to obedience training, 70% of it is for you. Absolutely. Now we sound like a German Shepherd, like I've got now, who is a particular terror. They keep telling me how smart he is. I haven't seen it yet, but they keep telling me that. Oh yeah, he's got to be trained and everything, but it doesn't do any good if when we bring him home, if we don't work with him. Sit, heel, stay. And I can tell you, the smarter somebody is, like a dog, like a German Shepherd, as opposed to some of these other dumb dogs we had, he'll figure ways out of things. He'll figure things out. And then that's what you got with people. And I'll tell you, this is one of those things. I want this to become your religion. This fits in with every religion on the planet. And I will tell you right now, I think it was one of your folks or somebody that told me, that sent me the list. I think there's 277 recognized religions in this country. Isn't that amazing? I had no idea. I could name 10. But anyway, it's got to become of the way you live your life. This isn't something that is a one and done type of thing. This is, I want to do better. I want to have better relationships with my kids. I want to have better relationships with my neighbors. I want to have better relationships at work. I want to do this and I want to get better. And this is something where you will never totally get there. There are going to be more challenges come to your life. It's like parenting. You never get to cross the goal line and spike the ball. Never. That is never what you do. It's always something, because there's going to be the next challenge, the next thing. It's going to be health. It's going to be money. It's going to be children. It's going to be something that is going to challenge you, and you got to take a breath and you got to deal with it. And so you see, this is something where we always are working to get better. And so it really helps when people adopt this as a lifestyle. And that's what I want for you.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Wonderful comments, wonderful questions. Anything else before we?
Thank you, Scott. This is Victoria. I just wanted to let everybody know that if I'm correct, probably the last slide of the handout that Scott has provided us has got his contact information on there if you want to follow up with him, with any additional questions or comments. I'm sure he wouldn't mind that. So.
No, perfectly fine. And you can always contact me at scottwarrick.com. And yeah, I didn't put a picture of myself at the beginning, but if you're looking at the camera, this is me. I should probably do that for next time. But yeah, feel free. I got a lot of free stuff on videos and all kinds of stuff on my website. And you can always contact me. And honestly, most of my practice is actually, probably 80% of my practice is presenting to groups. either in person or whatever. I got groups right now that are, they range from Australia all the way over to Switzerland. Okay, and so Zoom or GoToMeeting or something is great, but the other half of my clients, I mean, we're doing live and in person. So, oh yeah, the vast majority of my practice is actually this training. So if you want to talk about designing something for your folks, I'd be happy to do that. Absolutely. That's exactly what I do.
And we are really pleased that we'll have you for the second part of this. So I know we ran a little over. Thank you for everybody who's stayed. And thank you, Scott, for taking the questions that were over and above the time that we actually scheduled with you. Much appreciated.
Always my pleasure. Always my wonderful group. I love it. And honestly, I'll tell you, I'm 60 years old and I'm proud of that. And if I stay in halfway decent shape, I think I can do this for another 10 or 15 years. But I will tell you, my main goal right now is to try to make a little bit better world. And I try to do that with my books and my training. And that truly is what I want to do. I want to help people. I truly do.
And we can tell that, and we appreciate it very much. I know you've helped me throughout the years. Absolutely. So,
Wonderful.
all right.
I love that.
Thank you. And we will see everybody on part 2. Take care, everyone. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.